Ryan.
I'm definitely excited about the Pacers always.
No doubt, no doubt. Yeah, I'm excited to just kind of hear your perspective as I'm guessing more of like a Pacers fan for how much you love the Pacers, but also cover the whole NBA. Like, is kind of loving the Pacers and that fandom where your fandom for basketball started? Is that where your love for the game starts, or is it playing? Is it other teams, or is it growing up watching the
I've been a
Pacers?
Pacers fan for a long time. And yeah, I've been a big fan of the Pacers since like the Danny Granger late 2000s teams when I was a kid. And it's been very cool to, watch them throughout all these different eras and kind of get to this point where they have a really fun, cool team that also happens to be really good. And I think this version of Haliburton feels like the best Pacer I've ever watched.
Hey, that's saying big things with
certainly
Paul
up
George
there with like prime Oladipo. Though the one season he had was just like unbelievable. But I still think that
you can't get me started about Oladipo, man.
Yeah, Magic legend. I have a Magic Oladipo jersey somewhere in my closet.
Yes, as you should. As you should. I have
always loved him even before he was on the Magic, but
it lined up with my college days back then. So I have like I think it's a Theta sorority Magic tank top with Oladipo on the back, like a jersey tank top. It's one of my favorite prized possessions.
Hilarious. That's hilarious.
No doubt, no doubt. So I mean, that's high praise. I mean, obviously Haliburton is having like an all-time run. Like there's something to be said about like he's being regarded, especially just in your lifetime, as one of the best Pacers to be here, and he has gotten farther than any other Pacer has in that time period. Obviously, Paul George, almost his whole reputation is off of that Pacers time, that stint, that the D&3 archetype, tough shot maker. We all think of like peak Paul George, and all like even since then, we have a whole generation of players that view Paul George maybe the way my age views T-Mac, as like this wiry, tough shot maker, big wing that every player wants to be comped to and compared to, just like a do-it-all tough shot maker on the wing. So, for Haliburton to get, as you say, like I think most Pacers fans would agree at this point. Like the team is really fun. He has this incredible energy he plays with, then he's just insanely clutch. Like he's having these all-time moments. Like how many game winners has he had this playoff run alone? I mean, how many clutch shots has he had?
He's had one in every series. Like it's absolutely insane that he's done this 4 times.
It's wild. I think I saw the stat he was 12 of 14 on clutch shots or go ahead shots or something.
Yeah, I know it's something ridiculously good. Like it's,
and that was before the game winning shot that he also had. I think so. I'm pretty sure he would be up to like 13 of 15 on clutch shots. So literally one of the clutchest runs any player has gone in the NBA playoffs. Tyrese Haliburton is doing it right now, and that first game, I mean, it stands out of just how ready Haliburton was for the moment. And not to boil it down to 2 plays, but Shea has a shot to kind of take the lead in game 1, and it doesn't go in. It's a tough shot. He gets to his spot. He makes that shot all series, all season, but not today. And then Haliburton pushes up the pace and quick game winner. And it's interesting. Carlisle just believes in the team at that point. Like, our identity is grab and go run. Like, we're not going to call a timeout here to set up a play. Like, let's do what we do best. Get the ball, miss or make, and just run up the floor and see if we can get a shot for our best player. And is that kind of confidence, that trust, something that has been baked in all season, that they just continue to kind of play off of each other? Like Carlisle has grown trust with Haliburton to that point where obviously Carlisle has, the X's and O's, something of an advantage in almost any series. So you would think if anyone's going to call a timeout, call a play, it would be someone like him. But, he's earned that trust. So is that back and forth, that dynamic, something that has kind of developed through their time together?
I mean, sometimes the best X's and O's decision is just like to trust your genius point guard to try it, to do his thing. And it's, it's not like it's just like, go play. It's like the Pacers are obviously so good at running their actions, doing freelance stuff and playing their motion offense. So it's not just like, everyone is just playing super randomly. But yeah, I think the Pacers will call like set plays. They'll run their like four verticals, like football plays at the end of games as well. So it's not like they never, slow it down or call a set play. But I think it's good that they have the option to do both. Like they can trust their guys to, you know, just go and make a play. And of course, when you have a guy like Haliburton who just seems to make every clutch shot, that obviously helps. But yeah, I mean, it's been pointed out a lot that I think part of what makes Pacers so good in the clutch is that like they run their normal offense in the clutch. They don't change their identity. They don't change what they do in the big moments because what they do works 100% of the time, right? So they're just gonna they run the same stuff, like they're running the same plays. Like even I think back to like that crazy comeback in the Knicks series, like where Neesmith, um, like hit a bunch of shots. Like they're running sets for him that they run in the first quarter. Like it's just definitely like a belief in a consistency with the way that they play offense, which I do, really appreciate, and it makes them fun to watch. It makes them unique. I just don't think there's a lot of teams who play like that, but it's been cool to watch them do it because yeah, I mean, it definitely like requires level of just like not only obviously like a brilliant coach in Carlisle, right, but just like a brilliant signal caller as well in Halliburton, and then just a bunch of other smart players like around him.
Yeah, the pace that the Pacers play with is incredible. That I've said it a few times on the pod, but the idea that they're able to play with this pace, and the Thunder too. But the idea that both these teams are playing with this much pace and it's working in the playoffs is still like shock factor to me. Like I just did not kind of see that specific style
Yeah, it's really
continuing
cool.
to translate. Normally, it's like teams that maybe don't have the best offense at the bottom of the league. They're trying to play fast to get quick, easy buckets and just kind of to hang and to get as many shots up as possible as the other team. But like it's also just good strategy for any team, every team to want the easiest shot opportunities
For
and
sure.
transition.
Yeah, it's just a cool innovation. I think cool reminder that it's like, just because something doesn't often happen doesn't mean it can't happen, right? Like,
For sure. And that's something that I think like like going back to like the Suns days, that the Phoenix Suns 7 seconds or less, that was always a criticism of those teams, was that like the style didn't quite translate, the offense only style. But it's not offense only with this team. Like the Pacers are forcing turnovers. The Thunder obviously are the best, the league's best at forcing turnovers. So it's really just capitalizing on those forced turnovers, and it creates this cycle of trying to force turnovers, especially with the Pacers, forcing full court pressure, pressure to force those turnovers, and then play fast off of them. And even if they succeed and they score, we're still going to play fast. So there's never a break for the other team to catch their breath.
for sure, yeah, and I definitely think that like part of the reason for that is just because the Pacers are just so ridiculously well conditioned. Um, they're so well conditioned. It's incredible how they're able to just like keep up their gas from open tip to the end of the game. I think that probably does factor in. I mean, obviously, most NBA teams that make it to this level are going to be really well conditioned, but rare that you see the Pacers ever like impacted by fatigue. And I think just the way that they can, play physically, not only just like over the course of a game, but over the course of an entire playoff run, it's just not something that I think a lot of teams can manage. And I feel like more teams would try it if they could. I'm sure more teams will try it going forward. Like everyone always wants to emulate the the big thing, the best team, the team that's working. But I feel like the real kind of inefficiency is like to find a strategy that works for you and really just build like lean into that identity rather than like just because something works at the highest level doesn't mean that's the only way to do it. And I think the Pacers are good proof of that, which is just cool. I think it's cool.
Yeah, and that's a great point. That like kind of similar to the idea of the Golden State Warriors. Like every team starts immediately tried to play small ball or play skill ball because that trend worked for them so well, if not dominated for them. But it dominated because of the personnel as well, perfectly matching with the style of play. And that can be said about Halliburton and the Pacers as well. Like you have to have the personnel to play that style. And I do think it starts with Haliburton, the pace of it all, just this contagious, we're all gonna run and move and push. I feel like it starts with him, and then once you start playing with him, you just want to play with him, you want to run with him, and it becomes contagious. And
Yeah,
you know,
it just looks like fun. Like
right,
like it just looks like it's fun to play the way the
yeah,
Pacers play. And obviously it's always fun to play basketball, but like, just like everyone touching the ball, everyone's involved in the action, a lot of 3-man, 4-man, 5-man actions, which just you don't see a lot. Even from a team like the Thunder, run a lot of 2-man actions, but not as many like, full team stuff that the Pacers do. You'll see it sometimes, but just very few teams I think are as like interconnected on both ends as this Pacers team is, which just makes it really cool to watch and obviously really hard to defend and score on at times.
yeah. We were looking at some of the film with Brandon Benson on the podcast from the conference finals for both of these teams, and it was interesting that the Thunder, like, basically were just so, I guess, talented or so confident that they basically relied on their defense and, like you said, could just run like a pick and roll, and that was enough for Shea or J Dub to get their own shot to create a good look for Chet or a popper or a closeout attack or something. Like, it was very simple basketball that was good enough to win because it was almost like they had an incredible defensive line and a good run game, and they could just kind of just pound the rock. They're going to win 12, like they're going to be up 2 touchdowns anyway because of the stop. So they're just going to run the easy ones just and run the clock out. Whereas the Pacers, they are running all these kind of elaborate sets, like a double drag, but maybe with an extra screener or a ghost screen or someone like just an extra screener flying around just to distract the defense as he runs through the paint. And it confuses everyone because you're used to having one screener called out, but then there goes another guy flying by, and you just a half second slow to recognize the coverage. Like, do you guard that guy? Do you stay where you are? And I think that the Pacers, like, combination of the pace, the coaching, and then like we hit on the talent and the cerebral mind to just keep the ball moving, it's just free flowing, but also to run those sets seamlessly. Like, they know who they are. They're feeling good. Like, I think they have just about as much momentum as a team can get, and I think they are technically an underdog for good reason because of what the Thunder did
Oh yeah,
historically this season.
certainly. I mean, yeah,
But, like, as of New
undoubtedly.
Year's Day, they're what, like, the second best record in the league. Like,
They've
they
been really
probably don't
good
view
since
themselves
January
as an
1st.
underdog.
Yeah, I mean, they just started slow. I mean, still not on the level of just historic dominance of this Thunder team, even while being really good. But yeah, certainly underdogs and certainly not favorites to win this series, but also I think a better team than people gave them credit for.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I was just saying that I think, like, since the first of the year, they have the second best record in the NBA, so that they probably don't view themselves as underdog. They're probably just as confident as anyone that they're up 2-0, 2-1. They have all these game winners, these comebacks. Like, they clearly have the confidence in themselves that they're never out of anything, whether it's a game or a series. And game one, you had J Dub really impressing me. The last game, like, to dive into game three a little bit, obviously Halliburton's super clutch this whole playoff run. So shout out Halliburton, and he's having these insane sequences too, where like he hit like a step back three, and then the next play he just grabs a steal and throws like a behind the back dump off pass, all in like one sequence. That is just a fun player to watch. Where it's like a Harlem Globetrotter style out there, where like he's just having fun, throwing passes off of his elbow, not looking, spinning the ball around, throwing no look shots in, and like he's clearly one of the best shooters and passers, if not the best combination of both in the league. And when you combine that with
Certainly
his
up there,
handle, his
yeah.
pace, like it's just like a seamless scoring, like the ultimate scoring creator, someone I viewed as more of like a super connector when he first entered the league, but he just keeps
Mhm.
leveling up where the sum of the parts just take another leap, where it's like, yeah, he could be a plus defender, good passer, shooter, connector type. Oh, now he's actually an all-star. Oh, maybe he's just a superstar. Maybe he's about to like win the NBA finals as the number one option, just like that. And like, where did this come from? So just awesome to see Halliburton. Do you have any more thoughts on kind of his rise, his impact, his how awesome this run has been for Halliburton, and kind of how a little bit of legacy talk for you, how it could kind of start defining his legacy a little?
Yeah, I mean, I honestly like don't really care for legacy talk or like superstar talk. A lot of
Sure.
people, dive into that, but it certainly probably cements him as like I don't know, at least 1A, 1B best pacer ever, at least post merger with Reggie, right? Like I think you can
There
probably
it is.
make the I mean he was the 1A, if they can win the ring, he's the 1A on the team that won their first ring, right? Since the merger or whenever. But I think that'll put him over Reggie for a lot of people. Obviously, Reggie has like the longevity, right? That he's like a great pacer for longer. But I think regardless, for people, it's probably going to be like those two are the top two. I mean, that's how I think of it. At least it's like I don't think PG or Danny Granger or like Jermaine O'Neal really, you know, are quite the level of what Tyrese Haliburton is doing and has done just in just a couple of years as a pacer. Honestly, like it's only been like 3 seasons or whatever. It feels like so much longer, but certainly on very positive trajectory, right? And it seems like hopefully this is not like the last iteration of just of the Pacers being really damn good. But definitely, I think regardless, this run is gonna put him up there. And obviously, if he can finish them off, it's going to be very, 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 very crazy for like the legacy and just the talks and all of like the freaking people who are like, he sucks, he can't do anything. All the haters out there. I think it's been nice. But yeah, no, it's cool. I mean, he's immediately a pacer great. I mean, I think he already is stamped as that, right? Like,
Yeah, I mean he's already in that Mount Rushmore type of conversation for the Pacers. Already that legendary status, and obviously if he can pull this off, I mean that's just another level to actually bring a ring home. And with Shea in the matchup, like I was interested if you notice anything like Game Three, maybe defensively. Like it seems like they were able to contain him a little more. I know Charlie Cummings with Swish Theory just wrote about how the Pacers were able to rack up a lot more steals than the Thunder, and both of them are very turnover focused. So one of them winning the turnover battle this dramatically is pretty impressive. The Thunder only forced 6 steals, while the Pacers forced 13, and the Pacers also had 11 blocks to the Thunder's 4. So almost double in stocks in game 3, which tells me their defensive activity, their energy on that end was was a little bit higher. It looked like they were ready to meet the moment just a tad more than the Thunder, but the Thunder, it was a great game, and it was back and forth. And Shea's just incredible. Can't give Shea enough credit. Like he might he might have missed like a handful of clutch shots here and there, but like he's just making incredible plays throughout the game, weaving through traffic. Like, and that's the core of this question is hit with Shea's ability to just slither through defenses. Um, and actually, I think you shared a clip of one of the reporters, Samson Folk, talking to his buddy Halliburton just about this kind of very idea, like how they were able to contain Shea just enough to throw him off his game and force other Thunder players to try to beat them, which I think is the best strategy one can have against this Thunder team. Is just that. So, did you notice anything they were able to do? I know he kind of hit on like trying to kind of hedge and whatever the scheme might be. He was just trying to throw Shea off, and I believe Halliburton underlined the idea of just staying at the line and like being there, making sure he's at his spot at the right time, because he's not being half a second late is going to ruin everything. So, did you notice anything with their defensive coverage on Shea?
yeah, I just think with a player as good as him, like you're not gonna find one, magic bullet, right? That's just gonna be the coverage to run against him or Jokic or whoever, right? Like anyone um, who can do that. And I think they just did a good job of mixing it up. Like they brought more like hedges with OB or Miles, trying to just like force him, not let him like split the pick and roll like he likes to, right? Like he alluded to. And also they were like mixing up the angles at which they brought double teams. Like they weren't, they'd bring him from one pass away and then they'd retreat, and then they'd bring him from like the opposite slot and then they'd retreat. Like they just showing him different looks. Like of course Shea's going to beat you sometimes, but I think that this was a game where like his passing limitations creeped up a little bit. Like he wasn't reading those coverages on the fly like he had been, and he missed a couple reads, right? And Haliburton was able to like jump a couple passing lanes and get some big steals just because they were blitzing him or forcing him to the corner, right? Or like forcing him to the baseline. Yeah. I mean, I think you just have to be multiple. Obviously, you have to be physical and tough and play him hard, but I do think the NBA is shifting more and more towards like mixing coverages and being multiple and versatile with the kind of defenses you can play, because there isn't just one. It's not like the 2021 Bucks who are just deep dropping every time with Drew Holiday fighting over. Like that just isn't. Great offenses are just like too advanced really for that. And unless you just have like god level defensive talent, which is hard to do, especially while like maintaining a great offense. And even you see the Thunder, who have like S tier plus defensive talent. They have an all defense team, and they still run a bunch of different stuff. They obviously switch a lot. I think the Pacers did a good job beating the switching, but yeah, I think it was mostly just trying to confuse him, make him think an extra second, and like you said, definitely forcing the ball out of his hands. Like, even though J-Dub had a good game, Chet started really strong. Like in the end, if those guys are the ones you're relying on to beat you over the MVP, you're winning. I think you're pretty cool with that.
Right. Yeah. That's exactly it. Like the combination of like forcing not the MVP to beat you, especially just given the lack of experience for someone like Chet, especially, but J-Dub as well. Not a ton of experience on that stage, but just a less proven scoring option. And you hit the nail on the head defensively. Like you just have to throw different schemes at these guys to have any chance at overcoming like a cerebral mind. And you're like you said, you're never gonna just win the war just with one perfect answer. Like it's just constantly throwing different looks at them and hoping you can slow down their processing a little bit or confuse them even for one play just to force a miss because they didn't immediately recognize what to do and execute it like it's every time down. So I mean, I'm sure it's tough to kind of surprise stars like that at this point because they've probably seen everything, but the more you throw at them, the more confusing it can be. And that the ability to execute all those different schemes comes down to your defensive personnel and being able to understand all that as well.
For sure. So, they've obviously been so sick at that.
Yeah. And, the Pacers' depth is almost underrated in this series. Like you got McConnell has been unreal. I heard Zach Lowe use the phrase he had 3 McConnells in this game where he steals the inbounds pass, or a semi
McConnells in that game. That is true.
that's crazy. Where he rips the ball away after the inbounder passes it in is a McConnell. So shout out Zach Lowe. That's a funny one. McConnell was everywhere, not just this one, the whole run. Like he's just always been this pesky, energetic point guard that knows where to be, super tough and hustles defensively and just forces turnovers, knows how to get to his spots, has a little mid-range game to him as well, and can stop on a dime for that. So, I wanted to highlight him, and then Ben Mathurin as well. Just like out of nowhere, just explodes and huge game. He's confident in it. I know he's confident in his bucket getting abilities. I believe we're both pretty big fans of Mathurin and just his style. Like it might not be the most like all the winning habits that you look for in the perfect role player type of thing. But when he's on, like 27 points in game 3, 2 for 3 from the 3-point line, 7 of 8 from the free throw line, 9 of 12 overall. Like there was no one able to stop him. And he's just a tough shot maker when he gets it going. And that athleticism, that like feathery jumper is just fun to watch when he's feeling it. So I felt like I wanted to shout out those two specifically, especially for game 3 at least. But were there any thoughts on them and any other players that popped out to you for the Pacers, whether it's game 3 or this finals run that you kind of want to give a shout to?
Yeah, I think Mathurin, like huge kudos to him. I think the Pacers are really just like a perfect spot for him too. And Carlisle is the perfect coach for him to like know when he's on. He can, read the game flow. Some nights with Mathurin, it's just like chuck in and, not defending well, you can just pull it, right? But I think the Pacers are such like a passive team at times. Like they always want to find the best shot, and sometimes that's not the best shot. Like sometimes you need to be aggressive and you need to just be downhill and attack the basket. And I think Mathurin provides like a different mental element than a lot of the rest of the Pacers, right? Like he's willing to just like attack the basket, to be relentless. Obviously, he's such a skilled driver and foul drawer, and his shot making has been phenomenal lately, which is obviously huge. And that's he picked a good time to make all of his shots. But yeah, I mean, his just like ability to like be a change up is so important to me. I think because he's so different than the rest of the Pacers, and I think having different kind of wirings and mentalities and skill sets is really important. But I also just think it's a testament to like the how good the system and the scheme is, right? Where I think this is if Mathurin were in a different team with less space and less high level passers and less shooting, right? Like, I don't think he'd be nearly as effective. Or with a lesser coach that wouldn't know when to extend and rein in his leash. So, but he's been huge. I mean, he's been huge all playoffs, and obviously he's not like perfect. He has his stretches and games where he's not really doing much, but he's been critical and he's helped the Pacers win games. I don't think he's like lost games for the Pacers because, like I said, they'll just pull him if he's not having one of his days. But yeah, just like a really valuable role player, someone who these like score first wings who don't do much else can definitely be shaky. But if you can get him in the right system, get him with the right teammates, and yeah, he's just like, again, just a good player now who has a really valuable role on this Pacers team that really needs a guy like him a lot of the times. Where people, I think Obi is kind of like this as well, right? It's like the energy and the aggression that they can bring off of the bench. I mean TJ too, but in his own way, in like a different kind of way, right? Where it's especially because it's so hard to get downhill against this Thunder team. Even for like great drivers like Haliburton and Pascal, it can be a struggle to get to the basket. But Mathurin is just so damn explosive and strong and such a good foul drawer that he's always willing and able to try and get downhill. And even when it doesn't work, he's not going to be deterred and he's going to keep trying to, get those good looks. And I think I give him a ton of credit for the way he's played this postseason. He's been really, really important. As is TJ, obviously. And I think Obi as well, just someone who I think has had a phenomenal postseason. His defensive intensity in this series, passing in Game 3 was awesome, along with his usual shooting and play finishing and high motor. So, yeah, just a lot of really damn good players. A lot of guys who can do different things and who all obviously fit together well and have good chemistry and have figured this stuff out.
Yeah, great shot for Obi, another guy that's had some big moments in this playoff run, and kind of like Mathurin a little bit. They're both bench options, kind of for a reason. Like maybe it's a little more on the inconsistent side, like ups and downs, so that you get good games and bads, and you hit on kind of the balance of having a coach that can actually feel out when a player is feeling good, when he's made a few shots, when he looks like himself, versus when he just doesn't have it that night, because these guys are humans, not robots, and they're not going to produce exactly the same every night.
And
so
especially for a guy like him who was like a top pick, who was like a top 6 pick, right? I feel like a lot of coaches like with these kind of players who are flawed top picks, like they'll just give them the leash. They kind of won't rein them in as much as Carlisle will, but credit to Carlisle for finding a good role for him, and right, and credit to Mathurin for playing his role and not demanding or complaining or like wanting a bigger role. And like he gets plenty of shots, obviously, but he's not playing 40 minutes a night, right? Like he just doesn't need to, and that's not what he does. And he can be kind of a dickhead sometimes, and his antics, I can imagine would be incredibly annoying to opposing fans, but. Yeah, he's a valuable player, and I think the Pacers have done really, really well to build with him and to build around him, which isn't a given when you draft a player. I don't think every team does that, but
Yeah, and the way you described him almost sounds like he's replaced the Buddy Hield role a little bit. I don't know if there's some similarities there to you at all. But they also some of the coaching staff, even with Buddy gone, is still to this day crediting Buddy for I believe it was about Aaron Naismith and about some of just the off ball movement, just the idea that the players like just have this innate sense to stay moving off the ball, like never settle, never just stop and spot up. And they actually credited Buddy for some of that off ball movement, which I thought was interesting. And just kind of his lasting impact as kind of a long time pacer that has been a part of kind of the culture there. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Don't know if you see any
Yeah, no,
similarities
he's
there.
been so good. I've been so happy with Neesmith. Um,
Yeah,
I'm
I mean
so
his
happy with
defense in
him.
some of these
He's just
series.
been phenomenal, and like the movement shooting obviously is just huge with him. Like the ability to just catch off movement and fire without like taking a beat and setting his feet. He's like the perfect 3-and-D wing. He really is. Like there aren't many like true 3-and-D wings in the league. I don't think anymore. At least that are like really high level playoff guys that don't do he has just enough like driving to attack closeouts, but he's not really a driver. He's not really a creator. But he, is a really valuable floor spacer, really valuable off-ball mover, and obviously an incredible on-ball defender. Which is, just having him and Nemhard to throw at guys. Also, also shout out to Ben Shepherd, who always brings the energy and the intensity. And even when he's getting cooked by Shea or Jalen Brunson or whoever, like he's always playing his ass off, and he's always fighting and competing. And he's been pretty solid on offense too, like able to just play within the flow. Um, Pretty cool for like a late first round pick that if I'm remembering correctly, a lot of people kind of didn't know much about at the time, but he was a good player in college, and the Pacers have just found a really good role for him. And I think they've done a really good job with their like finding these guys on the margins, and not just finding them, but also putting them in position to succeed.
Absolutely, and I'm glad you gave them a shout there with Naismith's like perimeter defense, especially like this full court pressure. I believe it was on Brunson that I'm thinking about, but just the whole finals run really has just been incredible. Like is a core part of what we were hitting on earlier with the Pacers' identity to just pressure, 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 and that's a lot from him, his ability to do so. Where you force the other team to walk the ball up slowly, and they don't even get to start their offense until there's 14 seconds on the shot clock because it took them so long to get across half court, and they just essentially there's so much full court perimeter pressure that they hardly have time to even penetrate the paint and start their offense, let alone like look for a good shot. So, and a lot of that goes to Nesmith. And also, very glad you mentioned Nemhard. I feel like he is almost the most underappreciated part of all this. Obviously, has that insane sequence in game one where he didn't hit the game winning shot, but he hit the shot leading up to it, where he just has this crazy handle sequence and hits him with like a James Harden esque like dribble dribble step back power move and just money. Could you hit on kind of Nemhard's impact on this team and how important he's been? Where when sometimes you might only think of this offense as Haliburton and Siakam like taking turns of running pick and rolls, but really what happens in between is Nemhard running pick and rolls himself and orchestrating the offense as kind of a pseudo third option, if not even higher. So could you hit on his impact as kind of a creator and just overall impact to this team's success?
Yeah, I mean, his obviously starts with the defense. Like he's just been so ridiculous as an on-ball defender. Like obviously the way he defended Brunson in that game five, or game six, whatever it was, the way that he's been able to defend Shea throughout a lot of these playoffs. Like truly one of the best perimeter defenders in the NBA, just in terms of sitting down and locking up. And yeah, I mean, he's just like a really good complementary offensive player. It's good that he's shooting 46% from three in the playoffs. Like that's nice. And who knows to what extent that's like really sustainable over a long stretch of time. And he honestly has struggled quite a bit in a lot of this playoffs offensively. Like he's been really inefficient at the basket. He struggled to get clean looks, like especially he's just like in the Knicks series for a lot of the time he's like wasn't hitting any of his shots. But credit to him for staying confident and hitting the timely one, right? Like he just can make these tough difficult shots, and I think he's in the perfect spot. And another one of these guys to me who's just in like the perfect spot with the Pacers, who they don't ask him to do too much, they don't ask him to do too little, right? Like he has multiple high level offensive players around him all the time, and where if he was like the number one or number two offensive option, he might just be like chucking inefficient shots and not be very good. But the fact that he can be in this role where it's like you're not going to have the best or even second best perimeter defender on the team usually guarding you, right? It's like usually, obviously against the Thunder, that's still a ridiculous defender, but against most teams, it's not like that. But yeah, just his ability to hit tough shots and to get to his spots off the dribble. It's something that Haliburton is obviously great at, but it's not something that any of their other guards really do. Like Mathurin can to some extent, but he's more of like an off-ball guy as well, even though he can do some like pick and roll stuff. But yeah, I think it's just nice to have that complimentary handler, even if he has his issues. And I don't think he'd be nearly as effective if he wasn't on the Pacers, but he is on the Pacers. And, I think they've built a good system for him, and he's really valuable here. And I hope he's, in this role for us for a long time.
Yeah. I mean, a shout out to Kevin Pritchard, president of basketball operations up there, targeting and finding these players as you've described that seem to have perfectly landed in roles, and that could be a combination of things where the front office eyes these talents and sees kind of where the fit could be and brings them in. It could be the coach after bringing them in, adjusting to build the new offense around those players. And I mean, it could be both of those things, but I want to shout out the front office because they, like you said, they have found value across the board over and over again for guys that fit the way they want to play, their team identity, that understand their style. And we didn't even hit on Miles Turner, who's had a lot of fun moments. Like, I mean, I think in the last like 2 or 3 weeks, Miles Turner has signed a $30 million per year deal. He's had like a Jordan-esque free throw line dunk in the finals, like that will go on a poster above his wall, probably when he retires. Like that is there a more iconic picture for Miles Turner than this like Jordan throwdown slam? I almost need to find it, just pull it up. He had like a step back three in the clutch earlier in one of these games. He had a 3-point block on Chet Holmgren with 2 minutes left 2 nights ago in game 3 that was super clutch. I mean, how about Miles Turner, like been in the trade block for almost a decade, and instead he gets to go down as arguably one of the greatest Pacers legends himself, where he's been with the
No
same
doubt,
team.
I think.
Like he's probably a fan favorite by now, right?
Undoubtedly. He's my favorite Pacer of all time.
There
I
it
love
is.
him dearly, and credit to him for bouncing back. I mean, he was not good for most of game 3. And then he came up super clutch in the big moments, like you said, playing defense on Chet, making big plays on offense. And that's all I can ask, right, from Miles, who just certainly isn't the player he was a couple of years ago. Like defensively, I feel like he still has this reputation as like a really dominant defensive player when that's just not the case anymore. Like, yeah, he's a great shot blocker and always will be, but I don't think he's a great defensive player anymore, where he's, most of his value honestly comes on offense at this point, right? Where he was struggling in game 3, but ended up coming up clutch and coming up big. But yeah, I mean, he's a Pacer legend, stamped, absolutely. And I really hope he's a Pacer lifer, even if they have to like go into the tax for him, because like I don't care, it's not my money. But yeah, I mean, it was just a really rough offensive game for Miles. Like the finishing was really brutal. Obviously, a tough ask against OKC for anyone, especially that like the interior stuff has never been Miles's game. Being physical, catching in traffic, going up strong. It's never been like the main thing he does. But like I said, credit to him. There we go.
We got it.
But
The closest I could find.
But like I said, credit to him for bouncing back in a big way and for making game saving plays at the end of game 3. That's what you need your veterans, you guys to step up and do, right? It's like they're not playing great the whole game, but that's not gonna mean that he can't make big plays in the clutch. I think the whole Pacers team is like that, right? Like they make these big plays in the clutch, even when they're not having great games, or they're just very resilient. And it's like a buzzword you'll hear a lot, but it's a
But it's
very
true.
it's a very clearly resilient team, right? That
It's
doesn't
true.
let like bad things, um, yeah, that doesn't let bad things or bad things happening really mess them up.
And what's interesting is how I think, or how I pretty much know that I agree with you that this is a resilient team. Is you can see teams that are not resilient often, and they just, it's night and day. Like teams will pick any reason to throw in the towel down 15 when the vibes are off and they don't really want to rally together.
For
Whereas when you
sure.
have a group and a coach that like has good communication that can kind of inspire these guys to never give up, or even better, just focus on the next play and forget about the last one, is very noticeable. And the Magic are the same way. The Orlando Magic this year with Coach Jamal Mosley, directly from the coaching tree of Rick Carlisle, where like you can feel the resilient culture. Like it's just a part of the team identity at this point, which didn't exist period for a decade in Orlando before Coach Mosley arrived. So that's something that I recognize, at least from like just comparing, not to compare to the Magic, but just comparing some of those. Maybe it's just a part of their coaching style as well, their communication style as well. At least they're both able to do it. Where no, you just don't always get that from NBA teams, where the competitive fire exists through the final whistle no matter what is happening in the actual game, where you just never think you're out of it, and you just don't get too high or too low from the ups and downs of a basketball game or a season or whatever, all the different factors that kind
For
of go
sure.
into all that.
Definitely.
Yeah. So, Coach Carlisle, any parting thoughts on this, on Coach Carlisle's impact, as whether it's the X's and O's, any advantages you've seen in this finals run, or just kind of what he means to this team, and any other parting thoughts on kind of just the Pacers making the finals, 2 games away from winning it all, and even any thoughts on the comparison to kind of that Dirk run with Carlisle's other ring, where this team feels like they almost come out of nowhere. They do have a star and good balancing lineups, but then all of a sudden they're in the finals playing a super team where they no one really thought they would be this far just a couple months ago.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of alluded to this earlier, right? It's just like having an elite coach is so cool to root for. It's just like a fan. Well, like I don't realize the difference until it's there. Like I was always a Nate McMillan defender, but he was never that great. Like compare, or like Frank Vogel obviously was more of like just a hard nosed defensive guy. But it's like you know having one of the 3 or 4 best coaches in the league makes a real damn difference. Um, and I think most people don't get to root for a team that has like a Kerr or a Spolstra or a Popovich level guy. And Carlisle, I think, is one of those guys in terms of just like the way he can adapt, how he's a tactician, how he puts guys in spots to succeed in big moments. But yeah, I mean, it's so cool to have a coach like him, and it's been just added to how cool it is to root for this Pacers team and to watch them go on this run and play a cool style of basketball.
There it is. Yeah, I mean, I can appreciate it, and I feel like we got one of them in Orlando now, so I get to appreciate it up close and talk to a cerebral basketball mind and ask questions. That's always just probably the most exciting part, I guess, or coolest part of being in basketball media, is just getting to pick the brains of these basketball geniuses that have thought about all these different scenarios millions of times over, and then they get their heads ripped off by fans that haven't thought about it twice because the shot went in, or somebody stepped their foot on the line. So it is, you got to try to appreciate the best coaches, especially because there's a lot of coaches that aren't quite at that level, and I don't know if fans really, as you kind of hit on there, really appreciate the difference until you see it up close on a night to night basis, and you're just kind of blown away of like, oh, this is what it could be like to have just an innovative offense that doesn't get stale ever, and a defense and a team that tries hard and cares about each other and competes through the final whistle. And it's just sad that isn't common across every team, that it does take a great coach to kind of pull that out. But that's the value of coaching, is to rally a group of guys to play for each other and fight through a wall for each other. So shout out Carlisle. Excited for him to kind of get back on this stage and hopefully get a little more credit as an all-time coach, especially once he's becomes one of the few coaches ever to potentially win a ring with two different teams. I think there's only it's 3 or 4 coaches: Pat Riley, Phil Jackson, and maybe one other one on that list from a while back that I'm blanking on right now. But shout out the Pacers, man. Just a super fun story. Super excited to see the success, and Indiana basketball fans deserve this love and joy and fun, because no one loves basketball more than the state of Indiana, as far as I could tell.
Pretty cool.
Pretty cool. So I thought if you have enough time for one more little exercise here, I thought we could do a little mock draft style, like build a team, 2K association mode. We're just going to take the NBA draft pool, probably just the lottery or first round or so of talent, and we're just going to build some teams real quick. Maybe we'll get a listener to build the teams for us on 2K and play this out. Maybe they can tell us who won. Maybe we'll do it later. Who knows? But I say we just jump right in. A little build your own team, 2K association mode, 2025 NBA draft edition. I'll give you the first pick. It could go any direction. Who knows where you're going to go with your first pick, but you're on the clock.
I'm taking Cooper.
Oh, Cooper flag.
Big shocker.
Insert the Bill Simmons, Anthony Bennett noise reaction right
Big
there.
shocker.
Whoa.
Big shocker.
Who would have thought? I don't know why that reaction lives rent-free. I think it's been memed too many times on the internet.
It's a good reaction.
It's a classic. So
yeah,
Cooper flag number 1. Good pick. Don't have to spend too much time on that. I'm gonna keep it simple too. Go with Dylan Harper number 2. Send it right back to you with the pretty much chalk. But from here, I don't think chalk exists from here. Unless the top 5 picks are VJ Edgecombe, Ace Bailey, Tre Johnson, and that might be chalk, I guess. Is there any more chalk here?
I mean, maybe, but I'm just gonna go by my board and take Derek Queen, who I love, and
there it is.
I think has the next highest ceiling in the draft aside from Cooper and Harper. So yeah, that's what I feel good about that one.
There we go. We're halfway to rebuilding Mount Verd, right, from the high school class. So you're off to a good start.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can build the greatest high school team ever, or one of them, I mean, that's not a bad idea. That is a very fun pick. You can go a couple different ways here. I'm really high on a lot of guards here as well. My guy Wolf, I feel like I could probably get him a little later. I don't really think you're going to take him anytime soon. So
You never know.
You never know. You never know. I'm leaning more of a defensive anchor with Harper. I'm leaning CMB. I'm gonna go Colin Murray Boyles with the second pick here, and kind of play a little matchup with the Derek Queen pick as well.
For sure.
So I'll throw you back for the 5th pick here.
We're gonna keep the Duke theme going and go with Khan. With one really good floor spacer, off ball guy next to these 2 real centerpieces overall. So yeah, I think that's a good fit between those 3.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun already, and yeah, I mean, just keep it to Flag and Friends basically. Is what I'll be naming your team after pretty soon. But man, I could go some shooting, but would I rather have? I'm between Tre Johnson and VJ here. Maybe a little shooter, a little scorer. Khan's a great pick. But because I feel like Harper's going to have the ball a lot, I'm going VJ Edgecombe. I'm going to go with a little more of maybe a role guy, a little D&3 with the upside. So we got, Dylan Harper, a little scoring creator action for the offense. Colin Murray Boyles, defensive anchor. A lot of playmaking so far. And then VJ Edgecombe ready to slide in, a little D&3 on the wing. I really love your core 3. It's going to be hard for me to come back with depth from here, but I'm going to try. You're up with the next pick here, the 7th pick.
And how many slots are we doing?
If you have time, we can do a 9-man rotation maybe.
Sure, let's do a 9-man rotation. Okay, sure. So I'll just keep picking off my board and take Jeremiah Fears. Just supercharge this offense. Someone who I think is going to shoot, and him and Cooper and Queen with Khan space in the floor. Whew.
Man, you got some nice spacing there. Some complementary pieces. I mean,
I'm saying F defense. Cooper Flag's got me.
Flag got the defense. We
He's
don't
got
need
me.
any more defense from
He got me.
here on out. Man, I'm kind of going the opposite direction. Maybe that's how I pull out a sneaky dub here. Except there's a couple centers and they can both go nicely here. I'm leaning more defense. I think I'm gonna go with Thomas Sorber.
Oh, he sniped me. Damn,
Little defensive playmaking. We're gonna try to stop you with defense here.
that's tough. I was gonna take Sorber.
There we go.
Such
I
a good
messed him up
fit.
one.
Just such a good fit with this squad.
Yeah, a little. That would have
But
been a nice defensive anchor for
I'm
you.
just gonna ignore the board now, and I'm gonna take Neek. I'm taking Neek
Hey,
Clifford.
there it
I
is.
just wanted sturdy 3-and-D wing who can do some more stuff. So yeah, I'll go with Neek there as my, I guess, quote unquote fifth starter.
There you go. Or even a 6-man. And the idea here is kind of building a team together, not necessarily who has the best 9 NBA prospects. So I like where you're going here for the flow. Maybe a little 6-man action or can slide right in. We'll see where that goes. And since he fell this far, I got to go Tre Johnson. I got another backcourt here. I got I can start Tre Johnson and Dylan Harper, bring VJ off the bench. I mean, there's options here. So right back to you.
This is where I'm taking Ace.
Hey,
Who
okay.
I think in this kind of context, I view as a role player. Like he's playing 3-and-D for me. He's we're gonna get him to shoot off movement. We're gonna get him to defend the rim. He's a role player on this team, and hopefully he accepts that. Maybe we'll have to trade him if not. But yeah, I'll take Ace here.
Yeah, you had the draft until your season had a locker room dispute that blew up the whole team, and Ace got pissed because he's not starting. No,
No,
that's
we're
a
gonna
great
have a
pick
great
because
culture of we're gonna have a great locker room culture.
yeah, we already got Carlisle coming back. Like the culture is built here, and that's a great point. Like I think a context where Ace is more of what's the word, tertiary, like a role player type, where all he's expected to do is role player things. Like I think Ace is a phenomenal shooter. He's an incredible motion shooter, movement shooter, can take all these angles. He has defensive playmaking upside as a real D&3 type of defender there, and he's an incredible rebounder. And he can do all those things for any team. And if he accepts that right away, I think he will thrive. Like if you just threw him on Houston and asked him to play 3-and-D and rebound a little bit, I think he'd be a positive impact player. And if he gets upset about touches, and maybe we're doing a little too much assumption of his mindset. I don't know how he'll feel about his role, but he's been the guy his whole life. And if the handle and the vision or lack thereof kind of affect his ability to be an on-ball scoring primary option at the next level, then he's got to kind of accept that a role might look different for him to have a winning role in the NBA long term. But if he accepts that, he definitely, I think, could carve out 10-year career in the NBA if he just kind of finds his right niche, because he has, 3 bona fide skills at the very least that I think immediately translate.
For sure.
So you took Ace with that pick, or obviously the last pick. So that puts me back on the board, and I'm going with Noah Asenyu off the bench. We're a little bit of a potential pick, a little bit of upside down the road, but also just a play finisher, transition guy to throw off the bench. An energy hustler, defense in the front court. We're going to win with defense. We're going to win a rock fight in this matchup. So you're up next here.
All right, who do we think? I think I'm gonna go with Jace Richardson here. Just another really good off-ball player, guy who doesn't need the ball to succeed. Doesn't necessarily need the ball in his hands. So let's go with Ace here. Not Ace, Jace. Ace, then Jace.
Ace and Jace. Holding it down. I like that. That puts us at what, 7? Or I'm on. So that puts me on the 7th pick.
Yeah, you're on 7.
So I would go him, but I can't take my guy now because I took. No, I can't take it. There's not much room for Ace and Newell here if I was going to squeeze him in. It works out because you don't like the prospects that I'm high on, or you're not near. You're much lower, I should say, on the prospects I'm much higher on. for this exercise. So I have good value anytime I need to pull my guys up here.
Yeah, you can wait on your guys, and I can wait
Yeah,
on mine. So you're
there it is. I'm gonna go with a little more offense. We need another offensive punch. We know our identity. Walter Clayton Jr. off
that's a
of the
good one.
national championship team. We got our 6-man. Man, we're loaded here. We're looking good. Back to you here with your 8th pick. So we got 2
Hmm.
more each.
I think I'm gonna go with Malawash here. Just give me
Yeah,
a real good anchor
we
in the
got to.
middle, rim protector. I'll go with that.
Yeah, talk about incredible value at this point in the draft. If we didn't already have some centers on the roster, I mean, he could have gone 3rd overall.
Sure. Yeah, I'm just taking the value at this point.
Yeah, I mean that's a great pick. He to me he slides in as your starting center, and everyone else goes down a peg, and now you got Knipple, Fears, Flag, Queen, and Maluak starting. That's probably
That
where I would end up.
that's
But
quite
mate,
the squad.
that's nice. I mean, Fear.
We can tweak the lineups just
Yeah,
as needed. We can tweak the rotations.
I like it. I like it. You can find a balanced 9-man rotation after this is all said and done. So you took Maluak there. I got 2 picks left. Sadly, I don't think Ace is going to make my roster just due to the roster constructs here. But I already know who my next pick's going to be. I think you might know too. But I'm going to wait for Mr. Irrelevant. And let's see here. Now I have to think of who do I want. I probably need like a wing. Let's see here. I'm gonna go with just a good old like 8th man DN3 type of wing. You took some good ones already, some good role players I would have liked. I'm between like Cedric Howard and Carter Bryant, I think, for throwing a wing on here. And I'm going to go with Carter Bryant just because he's a little higher on the board, maybe a little all around, a little more scoring juice as off the bench as well, I think. But both bring a little bit of D&3 that I like. So you got one more pick here, your 9th pick for your rotation.
Yeah, Carter was probably high on my list of guys who I wanted. But I'm gonna go with another big. I'm gonna go with Kalkbrenner.
All right.
Just another guy who we're really going with this tall ball. We got Queen, we got Cooper, we got Kalk, we got Malawa. It's just gonna kind of monopolize the paint here, as well as we got Khan, we got Neek, we got Jace, we got Fears at the helm. I think we got a squad. I'm cool with this team.
You got a real squad here. I want you to hit me with your starting lineup after my next pick here, and maybe even your rotation order if you got it in your mind. I'm tempted to just bring in Asa Newell and Danny Wolf instead of Carter Bryant,
Go for it, man.
they're my guys. I want them on the team. I might just bench Carter Bryant and just pretend I didn't take him. Why not? We're here. So I'm you can have. Do you want Carter Bryant instead of Kalkbrenner with the last pick? I'm reversing.
I'll keep Kalk. Why not?
You got Kalk. I like it. And that's a good backup big. You kind of needed one there, and we're looking good here. We're looking good. So the official 2K Association mode, build your own team 2025 NBA draft, learning basketball, Swish Theory, mock, working title draft. We got on one side the Ben Pfeifer team. Con Knipple, Jeremiah Fears, Cooper Flag, Derek Queen, Kaman Maluak, with Neek Clifford, Ace Bailey, Jace Richardson, and Ryan Kalkbrenner. Is that your starting lineup and those 4 off the bench? You doing any edits here for the, you got one game?
Yeah, I
to
think
win
we'll
it all?
start with just the most talent, just the 5 we got out there as the starting lineup, but we can always tweak it as we need to.
Yeah, I like it. I like it. I could see Fears being a pretty lethal 6-man for this team too. So you could always
For sure.
throw maybe Clifford in there at the 2 as small, like could see that, or even Jace. You got 2 good options. There's some good basketball players on Ben's team over here. And so with my team, I got Dylan Harper, Tre Johnson, VJ Edgecombe, Colin Murray Boyles, Thomas Sorber, Noah Asengu, Walter Clayton Jr., Asa Newell, and Danny Wolf. So we're stacked. I think my defense is going to give you a run for your money, and I am a little worried about basically the Duke Big 3 now having Derek Queen and all these D&3 talents around them.
It's a good formula. Take the Final Four team and just juice them up a little bit.
There it is. So I just gotta throw some length. I mean, if we're playing directly, I might have to bench VJ Edgecombe and throw some length at flag, like throw Newell at the 3 maybe, or even Asenyu, I guess. We're going big. But we got Tre Johnson, Dylan Harper, Walter Clayton, and VJ Edgecombe, some fun guards, a lot of offense and enough defense. I like my defensive front court for sure. CMB, Sorber, Wolf, and Newell. Like no one's scoring inside here, so we'll see. I'll try to put us on like a projection, see how many wins these teams can get. There should be some tool out there that would let me project if either of us are winning 20, 30, 40 wins. I mean, in the NBA, this many rookies, I would say probably not too many wins.
No,
but there's a lot of
not
talent
many
here.
wins.
You talking 3 years from now? We're
Yeah,
running
maybe
the
if we
league.
keep this team around for a while, but then for the moment, I don't think.
Yeah, if we play association mode like 20 years in where all the names are fake, that's when we'll have, the championship success is after about 10 years of development for these guys. But that was a fun exercise. Excited to put this out. And thanks for taking the time today, Ben. It's a lot of fun just
No problem.
talking
Thanks for
finals.
having me on.
Absolutely. Always fun talking hoops. Thanks for taking the time, talking little finals, Pacers, draft. Have to do it again sometime, and great time for basketball. So thanks again, man.
See you, man.
Have a good one.
With Ryan.
Learning Basketball is a Swish Theory podcast hosted from Beyond the Arcade. Hey, that's me. You can find my work on Twitter, YouTube, Substack, and check out the team's writing at theswishtheory.com.